You just helped me see so clearly. It's like
But
we have these two things that we've been talking about. One is taking away some of the intellectual work from you and taking it over. And the other one is reconnecting you to the through the core of who you are, because
to
that's
the
what psychedelics do.
yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that both of these things are coming out very strongly at the same time.
So when we again, an overused tool becomes a weakness.
Right.
So if we overuse AI, it will become a weakness. There's no doubt about it.
Hello, Rick. How you doing?
Pretty good. Love your hat.
Thank you. Remember I was looking for my earrings last week? I found
Oh,
them.
and they were probably in the place you left them.
Yeah, they were packed in, I had like a couple bags that still needed to be unpacked from moving. And they were there.
Oh,
Lo and behold,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it got me motivated to unpack my bags fully, like finish that whole thing. So that was good. It was a little knock on the door from the universe. Get it done.
And
And
that's exactly yeah, that's kind of funny because that's kind of a bit of the same sort of theme I've been following too. But anyway, welcome everybody.
welcome to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
Yes, and just a friendly reminder up front, if you haven't subscribed to our show yet, please do so. You'll find a subscribe button someplace on the channel or through our podcasts, which are available.
Wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yeah, wherever. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all over the place. Yeah, that's really good. Um, So I know just before we got started today, we were both noticing something coming up for both of us in regards to artificial intelligence.
To artificial intelligence. Yeah, I feel like it's an important topic to talk about.
Well,
Not just
go ahead.
yeah, not just in regards to what AI is and all of that. We're not experts in that. I mean, we can just share how we've been using it and like our feelings around it. But I would like to take a look at what that means for us, right? Not just in practical terms, but like how do we feel about it, and what's the potential of this? How are things going to change, and how do we react to change?
Well,
Right?
well, how do we adapt to it, right? Because
And
I
how do we adapt
remember,
to it? Yeah.
and this is I know you're way younger than I am, but when, when I was first in school, um, calculators were sort of like this new age thing happening, right? And if you could think that a four function calculator was almost $100 at because they were still very simple, but they were expensive because of technology. But everybody started to think, oh my god, people are not going to be able to add. People are not going to be able to do the math anymore, right? Because this technology will take over the world. Well, you know, although that was kind of like everybody's got a calculator, everybody, allows the computers to do whatever it does now. AI has got that same, we're at another threshold. We're at another thing where people are starting to look at, oh, how will our worlds be different now that we've got access to this technology? Not just to the elite, not to the ones that can afford it, but everybody's got access to this now, and it's free. And it's free.
And I have something to say about why that's free. I've been thinking about that, right? It's like, what an amazing and powerful tool, right?
It's a tool,
And
like any other kind of tool.
yeah, it's
Yes.
a tool. And at the same time, like all things, and like we always talk about, we always question everything, right? Well, that's so nice of them to provide this for free. Well, turns out, as I'm involved in other things and investments and stuff like that, and I've been listening, it's really a prominent topic of conversation pretty much everywhere you look and turn, right? Which is very telling. We can get into that. But I got curious. I got curious about why is it free? Why would anyone offer such powerful tool for free? And then I realized I started connecting some dots that,
Mhm.
well, the most valuable, the
Yep.
most valuable asset for AI is information.
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
Right? And so providing this for free and spreading it wide and far allows them to collect more information, right? And like this is how AI improves itself, right? Through doing and learning, it learns from you, from the information that you put into it. So yeah, that's that's why it's free.
Well, that's why it's free. And and I like how you said it. Like, it's, first of all, AI, it's just a collective intelligence. Like, it's
Right.
collective knowledge, right? It's a collection of existing knowledge. So that's the
Right.
other thing that's important, because I've been finding it very helpful for research. And when I was doing some research on the mental health thing, the best it could come up with, and even it told me, it said, um, uh, 2016 on some of the research stuff. So the data that it has access to is only what's available.
What's available, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of like a very powerful, like, next generation Google, right? Like,
I,
with
I
a
agree.
lot more capabilities than Google has because it's interacting with you, right? But yeah, it's that's such a good point, right? It's only as powerful as the information that it has, and who is inputting that information is
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
right?
And when I look at it from a coaching perspective, um like, and I know it's already being used in the coaching world, because you can talk to it about whatever's, symptoms and whatever. It'll take that information that you're putting into it, look in through its databases, much like a psychologist would do right now, right? He'd go through his questionnaire, and then based on the questionnaire or what the input is, up will come a diagnosis.
Right.
The inherent problem that I find, and I find this is interesting, because, like, we're both creative types, and we both like to play in other fields. But I've noticed, like, in my photography programs and things like that, all the upgrades are including AI, and AI as a shortcut. And what I'm finding with AI is it doesn't include your preferences, in the sense of what, like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So when you hit the AI button, it's basically doing things based on a default of what
Right.
everybody thinks is normal.
Yeah. Right.
But your view of the world is not like everybody else's.
Right.
And so I think there's an inherent problem when we trust AI to sort of say, okay, this is what it is, when
Right.
we don't filter it through our own experiences and our own relationship with it. So I think it has to be personalized.
Right. It has to be personalized. And also, again, going back to question everything, your critical thinking is the most powerful tool you possess. And
And
don't
we
take that
don't
away
teach that
from
in
you.
school. We don't teach that in school.
Just
Yeah,
question everything.
yeah.
And it's so true. And also, like from what I understand, you have to teach it your preferences. It learns how to work with you. So that's like next level. I'm not that much of an expert on any of this, but I do know that that's something that you can teach it to do, right? As you work with it more and more and you give it specific inputs, then
Mhm.
it learns how to interact with you. But yeah, what a powerful tool that we have in our hands. And at the same time, there's some fear that may come up, right? Because also the reality of this is there's a couple different points of view on this that we could look at. One is, for instance, someone like me, like you, in our business, what we do, it's massively helpful, right? So more and more people have access to information and the ability to create things in a much faster way without having to go and hire someone,
Hmm.
right? The downside of that is that those people that do that as a profession now feel at risk, right? For instance, like in our profession, copywriters, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can write your content, and I do write my content, but run it through the AI to optimize it. That's something that you normally have to pay for someone to do,
Yes.
right? But now it's at everybody's fingertips. So that's a benefit to all of us, but it can also be threatening to someone who does this for a living. And that is very much a reality of it too. I mean, I was sharing with you before we came on that I was listening to this expert who was talking about AI and how this is going to change the world in a very massive way, right? Specifically in regards to job loss.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the projections are pretty astronomical. We're talking about 60% of jobs being lost to AI. And I can't remember what was the time frame that he gave, but he also specified the time frames that we used to have are no longer valid because this thing turns out is developing much faster than we had projected. We used to have a
No
breakthrough,
surprise there. No
right?
surprise
We
there.
used to have a breakthrough every 3 years, and now
Yeah.
we're having breakthroughs with AI every 3 months.
Yeah.
Whatever was projected is no longer valid because it's really speeding up. And it's about to hit. It's about to hit our lives. It has already hit our lives, right?
Totally. Yeah.
But it's about to become more and more prominent. And that can bring, excitement and fear, right? Like we just talked about, because it brings something new and expands your abilities and gives you more reach and gives you capabilities that maybe you didn't have before. And also the ability to even do things that maybe before you didn't have the means to be able to afford, right? And at the same time, there's the fear of what is this going to mean for us, for the world as we know it.
Well, and that's one of the key things to, from a coaching perspective, is to be really mindful around what meaning you are playing about this, right? Because just like the people that were in all in good intentions thought, you know, calculators, are going to be the downfall of our education because people will not be able to think for themselves.
Right.
Well, we had that same argument when the computers came out. Oh my goodness, people are not going to be able to think for
Right.
themselves. We also thought that computers we would be paperless. Well, that proved wrong. Um, especially in the beginning.
They still print stuff in schools, I can tell you that.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Right. Um, you know, that a lot of jobs, so a lot of jobs did disappear, but people pivoted. So one of the things that we have built inside of us is our adaptability. Like we have always been proven over history how adaptable we are, especially when it's adversity and various other things. So yes, a job title may be gone or may be changed, uh, but there will be something. Like there will be something there. It's just a question of how insecure you are in uncertainty
Or how strongly gripped you are to
to
what
what
you have,
to
what
your
you
current
know.
reality. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
your
Yeah,
current reality.
yeah,
And you know what? That can be a tough argument when you really love your current reality, right? When you really love what you have. That can be very difficult. I mean, I just experienced that, letting go of my home, right? I loved my home. There was nothing wrong with it. It was absolutely amazing, right? There was a lot of fear. It was very, very difficult for me to let go of it because of it, right? And now that I'm on the other side of it, is, wow, I've learned so much. I've grown so much. It has prompted me to think differently, to do things differently, to appreciate things that I didn't appreciate before, to create my own, right? If I was given the choice now, I would still sell my place, right? Like if I had a do-over and I could be like, "Oh, would I keep it?" No, I would absolutely go down the same path that I went down because I can see now what I gained from it. I can see now how I expanded and grown from it, right? In the moment though, it didn't feel that way. And
No.
that moment wasn't just a moment. That moment was long stretch of time, right? And it threw me into a whole, cycle of really shedding a lot of skin and letting go of a lot of stuff. And it wasn't fun. And it felt like out of control at times. And it felt confusing. And I felt it made me doubt things, right? Those things are part of the process, right? And that is when it's important to stick with it and really trust in this greater intelligence, this greater plan, what really life is helping us see, helping us grow into.
And that's and I like this. I like this. I'm going to use it as a segue because we have within us, like, we have one brain, one mind that we can use two different ways.
Right,
And one of the ways that AI uses is you could call it our intellect.
right,
So our intellect is everything that we know to date.
right,
There's nothing fresh and new in that. There's actually nothing fresh and new in AI either. It's new to you because you're getting new information, but it's accessing old information. Like
right,
it's not creating new information, it's accessing old information. So and it's becoming a bigger and bigger. Well, as we experience life, there was a really neat poem. The opening line of the poem was, as children we experience life once, and then the rest is memory. and
right,
that's and that's what happens with us, right? We're experiencing life moment to moment, and as these moments now become memory, and we access this memory, we call it our intellect, our intelligence. But there's another side to us that we forget about, and that's that creative side, where actual fresh and new information comes from.
right,
And so we have the ability of using AI, like you were saying earlier, as what it is, understanding what it is, and then enhancing it as part of your creativity.
right. Enhancing and also, right. I love what you're pointing to, and also really trusting that
We
possess we possess the ability to adapt and change and create more
Yeah,
and expand, right, from this. So yeah, well, maybe
with
we
the,
hated
excep-
it.
with the exceptions of your limiting beliefs.
With the exception of your limiting beliefs, right? Whatever it is that you feel like you cannot do, it's your belief system,
Yeah,
right? We talk about this ad nauseum.
yeah, I know.
I mean, but that's what it is. If I had to summarize in one sentence, what is it that we do as coaches? And what is the catalyst to transformation? Changing your belief system. That's what we do. We help you change your belief system if you don't like it, right? Or reinforce it if you love it, like,
Well, that's you brought earlier about how AI can learn from your preferences, right?
right, right,
Well, one of the things that I've been finding, especially with personality tests, and I've worked quite extensively with personality tests like the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and things like that, but the is that people start to identify with their preferences, and,
right.
and particularly the ones they don't like,
But
which
we
is
just love reinforcing those
yeah.
beliefs. We
And
love reinforcing those beliefs.
so
It's
so if AI, if you're identifying with your preferences, which you are not your preferences,
right,
hint hint. But if you're using your preferences with an AI intelligence, all you're doing is just reinforcing what you don't want in the first place. So you got to be very careful.
right,
Careful
right.
what you ask for.
Right. And really like sit with things and question everything. I mean, again, we're going to keep repeating this, right? I mean, we could go like where my mind went listening to this guy talk in great depth about all of this, what it has meant. And by the way, this has been happening for a really long time. We're just finding out about it, right? And there's actually a link between that and psychedelics and and how that prompted all of this work. But like we're literally sitting on the edge of a massive global transformation, right? There's a couple of really massive things happening, not just with AI, but also, as I just mentioned, psychedelics is
Hmm.
another topic that I would love to go deeper into in another episode, but like that is also really shifting a
Yep.
paradigm. It's really shifting the way we look at things. It's really shifting the way we interact with ourselves, right? With the world around us, with the meaning that we give to the world. And like the potential there is like incredible for human transformation and healing. So we're on the cusp of a very exciting time when you think about it, right? Yes, it can be also very scary. Those two feelings are pretty close, right?
Absolutely.
Anxiety and excitement have the same reactions in our body, right?
Absolutely.
So I choose to look at it with excitement, right? Because I can see a greater picture, right? I can see that where my fear went, it really literally went into all the movies where all the robots take over. And the Matrix and all of that, right? To some degree, gives me chills sometimes to watch back some of these older movies and be like, oh yeah, all this stuff is actually happening, like to some degree, there's there they predicted some of this stuff, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm just excited because once I remove myself from being this close to the thing that I'm so worried about, I can see a greater picture. I can see that regardless of anything that's going to happen, right? Ultimately, life is going to start and end in the same way for us, right?
Hmm.
And when we look at the greater picture, we look at the condition of the world today. I mean, is that something that we're really enjoying? I mean, looking at what's happening in the Middle East, what has been happening in the Middle East forever, looking at Russia and what Russia's doing, like we just got used to it. We just got used to the dysfunction. We just got used to the loss of human lives. We just got used to that kind of toxicity, right? So we can get used to pretty much anything,
Oh, of
frankly,
course.
even things that are terrible,
Yep.
right? So to just sit here and like get really worried about something that we are projecting to be in a certain way, really matching up our fears, right? That belief system that's
Yep.
not
Yep.
serving us. It's a little bit of a waste of time if we sit in the fear
And
only,
and
right?
we talked about that in a previous show about the separate reality things, right?
Right,
Like two individuals like ourselves, right, can be looking at AI from two different lenses. You
right,
know, I remember my father-in-law, for instance, like this is back in the 1980s, um, ancient times, but technology.
I
I know, I
I
know,
was a kid in the 1980s. What do you mean? Like, I remember the 80s. That's not ancient times.
but but it's funny. I no, that's a sidebar story, but anyways, the technology was really changing the logging industry, and
Mhm.
better machinery and various other things. Well, the where I live, there used to be a sawmill that employed 1,200 people, and technology kind of moved in, and they they laid off 1,200 people, and then a couple of after they rebuilt the sawmill, they hired back 123 and still produced, if not more, than what the 1,200 was doing.
Right.
And I think, depending, my father-in-law, like when you get into your 50s and you start to look at, oh, like, okay, I'm going to retire, this whole notion of a long-term career. I don't think we have the long-term careers anymore. Like we've pivoted away from,
And
you
that's a
know,
belief too.
well,
That's a belief
it
too.
is,
Yeah.
right? But when you anchor and hang on to it for so many years, it can be it can be devastating to all of a
Because
sudden
because your entire identity is linked to that,
is
right?
linked.
Right.
Exactly, exactly.
So
So yeah, is it going to be pretty? Not in every area.
I mean, are people going to lose jobs? Yes. Right. So let's look at this for a second. Yes, people are going to lose jobs. People are already losing jobs.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Is it going to suck for some people? Absolutely.
absolutely.
Can we stop it from happening? Not
No,
like, right?
not
So let's use the fear. Let's lose the fear to do the thing that we've been talking about. Let's question things. Is my entire career, like my entire life, linked to this career? Does it have to be? How can I think differently? Right?
hmm hmm
Without questioning, not just AI. I'm not saying just start questioning AI. I mean, you can question AI, and that's critical. Like I said, don't take everything that AI spits out at you, for finished work, because then the AI is in control, right? Like,
Well, it has no
right,
emotion either.
right, right,
It's
has no emotion, and like
black and white.
you should always critically look at this stuff and question it and adjust it to your preferences, right? But let's take this fear to also as an opportunity to build differently and build better and think differently. What else can I do? What would fulfill me? Oh, this actually can be a do-over for so many people. Did I genuinely enjoy my job? Was I truly fulfilled? So if the answer is no, what an opportunity to
Again,
go do what I love,
yeah,
right? What else can I do? What else am I skilled at? Skills are transferable. I can tell you this from pivoting and shifting into wildly different careers, right? And I had a sticking point there too that I couldn't really see it. So skills are transferable. So if the answer is no, that's the opportunity. If the answer is yes, I loved my job. I just poured all my heart into it. It was so fulfilling. Okay, so you already have the blueprint to recreate that.
hmm
You already have that clarity. You're a step ahead. You already know what works for you. How else can you create that
yeah,
same exact thing,
yeah.
right? Get in control, get on the driver's seat, get in charge of your life.
Well, how many stories have you come across where it's looked that an individual looks like, oh my goodness, I'm lost everything, and you go back a year, 2 years later, and it was the best thing that ever happened to them.
Right. And it doesn't feel that way in the moment.
No, no, it never does. It never does. They highlighted something on the news today about a guy. He carved up these three-dimensional coins in Canada. They're gold coins, but they have a three-dimensional look to them. And apparently, he was he lost a good job that he loved dearly, and turned it into a
And you
consulting
business.
business, which was not what he was, but it was something he desired in doing. Like he was drawn to it, right? So there's opportunities there. There's
Right.
opportunities there.
I mean, is it going to be uncomfortable? 100%.
All
Is it
change.
gonna suck for a while? Yes, it's gonna, and not for everyone, and not for everyone. But if
No.
you were so attached to it, you love what you did, it's gonna be a transition, right? It's gonna be an adjustment. And adjustments cannot happen without discomfort. Change cannot happen without discomfort. When we're comfortable, we sit in our comfort. We sit in stillness,
Yeah.
right? We're not moving or changing. So in order to change things, you got to get up and walk. And that can be a little uncomfortable if you've been sitting for a long time,
You
right?
mean I have to do something, Fati?
But it can also be super exciting. It can
Totally.
bring new, life to new meaning into your life, new
Well,
energy into your life.
part of also what I appreciate with AI is the it picks up routines that would normally take time. Like I
Right.
know, like when I do batch processing of my photography, there's I put my preferences in and things like that, but then AI can take care of the rest. I don't have to go through 100 photos and try and do that, right? AI can cull and categorize. I used to sit there and oh, there's a train, there's some people, there's right. AI can look after that
Love
now,
it.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and and leave the creativity to me.
Right. And you know what I'm really excited about? I'm gonna be very honest about this. The
With
day that I can buy a robot that's gonna do laundry and wash my dishes and clean the floors and take care of all of that. That's what I'm looking forward to very selfishly as a mom.
what you don't, I have a robot vacuum cleaner. How come you don't
I
have
know. Because I think yeah, it's so interesting that you said that because I actually had a conversation about this a couple days ago with another dad while I was watching my daughter. He was telling me about his robot that also mops. I was like,
one?
what? The last time I saw one of those things, it was round and he bumped into things and didn't clean anything. And then I was like, but that last time was maybe 20 years ago. And I never looked at it again because in my head, I formed a belief that
Yeah,
these things don't work. So I
yeah.
never looked at it again. And he was just telling me just how really helpful it is and how well it works. I was like, oh, really? That's interesting. I'm
Well,
going to have to look into that again.
when we first got ours, it was really funny. Like, there's a whole story around this, but anyways, the bottom line was I became a micromanager of this robot. I I would set up tests, right? Because we'd go out and kind of thing. So I put dirt in certain spots to make sure it would pick it up.
Well, you did your job of questioning everything.
Well, it's like, is
Maybe
this
went a
really
little
doing
too
it right?
far.
Yeah. No, it's it was interesting. And but again, like that's all part of it, right? That's when we can play a little bit, not take it so seriously in the moment. Yeah, it feels serious. It feels like, oh my goodness, things are going to change. But it's like everything that has ever occurred to us. Even Oppenheimer was a big Academy Award winning movie, right? And it highlighted that the atomic energy, that was a big switch that happened, right? It's also interesting at that particular time, LSD was also invented, right? Not saying any of that is related,
I
but
mean, we could really go into that
yeah,
conversation. It likely was.
but
Go ahead.
people looked at it, and Oppenheimer said, like basically said, it's like, what have I done, right?
Right.
And so we have atomic fusion. It can be harnessed for good because we have nuclear power plants, we have nuclear energy, that kind of thing. And of course, yeah, it can be weaponized, right? And I think that's probably some of the biggest fears that people have about artificial intelligence is you know who's going to weaponize it or who's going to look after it. But you know what? There's I still believe that there's enough good people out there that
Right.
we're going to create it. The world's going to change. It's going to look different. That's all.
I mean, like we were talking about before we came on, it's like that fear is that same fear applies to psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
How are people going to use it if they're going to misuse it and all of this? And, as I was saying to you earlier, well, then we could say that about a gazillion things in our lives, like
Totally.
driving a car, learning to swim, like anything that you do, you had to learn to use it properly,
Yeah.
right? There's actually pretty simple solutions to that. And that solution is teach people, inform them,
Yeah.
right? If you're so concerned that this concern has kept something, and right now I'm talking about psychedelics, something so incredibly powerful in healing people away from us for 30, 40 years. You're so concerned. Wouldn't it be easier to just teach people how to use them? Wouldn't it be easier to inform them of the risks? Here, you have to take this certification before you can possess this legally. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing out
Well,
ideas,
we
right?
do we do that for so many other, like, even to cut hair, you have to have a certification. You have to go through
Right,
a right?
right. It's like literally like driving is the first thing that comes to mind.
Sure.
Imagine if people were just given a car just get out there, there will be a lot of crashes, right? We don't do it that way because those concerns are legitimate, right? So I'm not saying that the concerns around the repercussions are not legitimate. I'm just saying perhaps there's different solutions that we can come up with that are not just making it prohibitive, illegal, throwing people in jail, right? In light of the benefits that we could get from this, which are becoming more and more well known and mainstream. And the research is so compelling and so clear that this is such a powerful tool in healing people from trauma. And not just that, amplifying human potential. What
Mhm.
people have created, I mean, this stuff is becoming more well known in the underground world.
Well,
It's
this is
been
the part,
used for a long time, right?
and
And
this is the part that sorry to interrupt, but this is the part that really intrigues me about the psychedelic side of things, because when we talk about the AI side, right?
right,
The it actually it disassociates that. So when we again, an overused tool becomes a weakness.
right,
So if we overuse AI, it will become a weakness. There's no doubt about it. And part of what I like, and I know we're going to be doing future shows on it, is that this whole notion of right now our intellect is being driven by the ego. When you can start to dissociate from identifying with the ego, what you're left with is this really interesting thing,
which is who you are.
like who you are, like this.
Right,
You start to realize that you have this innate intelligence already. Like you don't need AI to figure it out, right?
right,
Like I was playing with you the other day, or actually this morning, a bit about, like, you sent me some texts and you asked me, what do you think about it, right?
right.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm not going to tell you what I think about it because it's only my opinion, but it just highlights that, oh, Fati must be overthinking because I've
Never
never,
happened before. I've never
I know
done
it's never happened, and I've never overthought anything in my life. But
that.
there's a sense of knowing something intellectually and knowing something,
Right,
right, deep in your heart.
right.
That's something that the AI can't give you. And you can intellectually, okay, AI, tell me what I should do. And then you get the answer and you go, I don't know about that. Well, that's your innate intelligence speaking to you.
You know what you just helped me see so clearly? It's like
But
we have these two things that we've been talking about. One is taking away some of the intellectual work from you and taking it over, and the other one is reconnecting you to the through the core of who you are, because
to
that's what
the core.
psychedelics do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that both of these things are coming out very strongly at the same time, right?
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
we've been overusing for a long time is
Yeah.
now has now created an intelligence outside of us in the form of artificial intelligence. It's going to do some of that
Yeah.
heavy lifting for us,
Sure.
right? And then there's medicines that have been a part of
Center.
existence, right? Forever, for as far as I know, probably since the existence of the world, right? These medicines are coming in to really reconnect us with what we've been underusing, right?
Yes.
Which is our intuition, our wisdom, a connection to something greater than us, right? Whether you believe in that or not, some of this information, anyone who has used psychedelics, you just tap into things that sometimes you question, is this me or is this part of the collective intelligence, right? And both of these things tap into a collective intelligence in very different ways,
In different ways, and there's a freshness to it. Like,
right?
that's what I mean about that. Like, when you gave me that text, it was sort of like, well, obviously you're not sure, right? You're not sure. And so, but when you settle your snow globe down, you start to look at it differently and you go, there's the answer. There's, like you said, and it
Right.
all comes through insight.
Right.
So AI might generate you a data-driven insight, but with our innate intelligence is driven through a different channel. It's hard to explain, and I think maybe we should do another show about that or something. But
Oh, not maybe. We're absolutely doing another job.
yeah, yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
That's such an important topic. We are on the cusp of a massive paradigm shift where
Yeah.
humanity is about to evolve in ways that we cannot yet conceive.
Well, the
Mhm.
Western world, because
Lost them.
a lot of what we're trapped into is this culture around Western world. Because there are other cultures in other parts of the world that embrace this side of things.
Right,
Right?
right,
So they've been doing that for many.
right.
Meditation and mindfulness is quite new to the Western world in comparison to other parts of the world. Right. So
Yeah.
we're at a ways of catching up.
I highly, and I know I said this to you, and I know you're reading currently How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, who
Yes.
was, crucial in really getting this
Well, what
information
I
to
like about him, first
the
of all, is that he not only is he a researcher, right, but the way he attacked the research,
right,
because he's the same age as I am. How his experience of growing up through the drug culture age of the 60s is exactly the same as mine.
right,
It was sort of like we were always at the cusp of, right,
right,
NDA was coming out, all this kind of stuff. And it's interesting. Yeah, I highly recommend the book.
right. And another book I highly recommend reading is Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler, which makes some really, really interesting connections between actually flow states,
Hmm.
psychedelics, and AI, and
Yeah.
how long all these things have been around. It's remarkable. It was such an enlightening book,
Yeah.
really well researched. So yeah, reading those two books, I think, really opens up a whole new world for anyone who's not familiar with any of this. So highly recommend.
All right, kids, you got your homework now.
Yeah, you got your homework. Do the homework. I mean, if this conversation struck a chord with you, if it resonated, if you got some insight from it, give us feedback. Let us know. Subscribe. Share the episode. Share it with someone who maybe needs to hear this. There's so much more that we could talk about and that we will talk about moving forward. But it's important, right? That's how paradigm shifts happen with awareness. It always starts with awareness. So if this was of value to you, help us amplify our impact. That's what we are here for.
Yeah, absolutely. And engage in a conversation with us. Like if you got some questions or have experience, share them in the comment section. We're readily available. You can email us, for any coaching calls that you might want to explore. Is transitioning, right?
Right.
We're both good change managers. Anyways,
Um, Amazing, everyone. Thank you so much, Rick, for an awesome conversation as usual. We love you, and I'll see you next week.
have a wonder-filled day.
You too. Until next time, everyone. Ciao.
Bye.